With the outbreak of the coronavirus, there are now new challenges, including burying those infected by this highly infectious virus. In this short video explainer, we explore what you are likely to expect when someone you love passes away with the coronavirus, taking into account the government guidance entitled COVID-19 Infection Prevention and Control Guidance, updated in March 2020. While this official guidance details the infection prevention and control recommendation in handling dead bodies in a hospital environment, it is also very relevant for the family and friends burying their loved ones to also understand the careful steps being advised to hospitals to stop the spread of the coronavirus. If your loved one passes away in a hospital as a result of coronavirus, the hospital should be following a protocol drawn up with the aim of A. Ensuring the dignity for the deceased loved one, B. Respecting the deceased wishes on how they would like to be buried if known, C. Respecting the family wishes, where possible, on how they would like to take possession of their loved one's body and how they would wish the burial to take place, including the washing and shrouding, and D. Preventing the spread of the coronavirus. Please check any updated national guidance on burying a loved one or ask to see the hospital protocol, which should be on the hospital's website. The hospital protocol may include the following steps prior to death of your loved one. 1. Your loved one would likely to be placed in the isolation facilities. Therefore, there would be strict limits on the number of visitors, if at all. 2. Any visit to see your loved one would be under a very controlled environment, behind a window and or wearing personal protective equipment, for example a mask. 3. Anyone wanting to visit their loved one who tests positive with coronavirus or with symptoms of coronavirus such as a cough, fever or shortness of breath, or anyone with any underlying medical condition would not be allowed to visit. What this means is, sadly, for many families and friends, they may not be physically present to speak with or be with their loved one in their final days and hours. And knowing that their loved one passed away without seeing them one last time can be very upsetting for many close family and friends. Following death of your loved one, the hospital protocol may include 1. Keeping your loved one in the isolation facility. 2. Designated individuals, which may include chaplains or funeral directors who are trained in personal protective equipment, to be allowed to wash and shroud your loved ones. However, hospital protocols may allow the washing and shrouding to take place under the direction of the funeral director at designated places, which may include places of worship. Please check updated hospital protocol and official guidance. 3. Your loved one being placed in a sealed body bag, possibly with a transparent top part to see the face. The outside of the body bag would then be cleaned. 4. Limitations on numbers of visitors being able to see their loved one in a controlled environment. 5. Your loved one being then placed in a coffin ready to be sealed. The outside of the coffin would then be cleaned. 6. The coffin being placed in the hospital mortuary ready for burial. Again, sadly, what this may mean, whilst in the hospital, it is likely that visitors will be strictly limited to close family following death and on the basis that they have not tested for coronavirus or have mild symptoms or have any underlying health conditions. Please note, burial may not take place within 24 hours of death due to the demand on resources. As difficult as it is to understand, these hospital protocols are in place to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. It has been advised by health experts, again on the basis of preventing the spread of the coronavirus, your loved one may then be taken for burial directly to the cemetery rather than to a funeral parlour, a place of worship or home. What this may mean is there is the possibility that there is unlikely to be any funeral prayer or gathering with the coffin containing your loved one, whether at a funeral parlour, place of worship or home. At the burial plot, it is unlikely that you will be able to see your loved one's face or physically touch their face, as the coffin is likely to be sealed by this point. And while it may seem insensitive at what is an incredibly traumatic time, it should be borne in mind that anyone involved with your loved one from the time of coronavirus is tested, that is, the doctors and nurses, to the eventual burial, that is, the funeral directors, would likely be wearing personal protective equipment, including gloves, gowns, aprons and masks. As a sealed coffin is used to prevent the risk of spreading the infection, it is likely that family and friends would be able to attend the burial at the cemetery. Again, be guided by the hospital doctors and protocols. However, attendance at the cemetery for family and friends infected or exposed to the coronavirus who wish to participate in the burial service will certainly not be allowed because of the risk of spreading the coronavirus to those gathering for the funeral prayer and burial. For these members of the family and friends, any participation in the burial at the cemetery or even the washing and shrouding would only be achieved remotely through some kind of video technology. Unfortunately, this is not the same as being there in person. This, understandably, will be upsetting, but an unfortunate but necessary precaution. Anyone who is burying a loved one should speak with the hospital doctors and specialist funeral directors to know what is and is not possible and what is and is not practicable during the burial service, including the remote service available if needed for particular members of the family. This should all be contained in the hospital protocol, which is likely to change as new information on the impact of the coronavirus emerges. Anyone who has come into contact with your loved one will need to be tested for coronavirus and/or be placed in self-isolation. And again, this is very likely to add to your anxiety and distress at this very difficult time. Please seek support from family and friends, as well as hospital chaplains, doctors or a grief counsellor to help you through this incredibly traumatic time. Thank you for watching.